Good evening and welcome to the Hawarden City Council meeting on Wednesday, October the 14th, 2015 at 5:30 p.m. All present are council and mayor other than Mr. Travis Olson as a council member and staff. Number of agenda items tonight. There are no public hearings for public comment. Standard agenda item number 1A, approval of the September 23rd, 2015 City Council meeting minutes.
So moved.
There's been a motion by Payne. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Larry. Any clarifications? Hearing none, all in favor then of the September 23rd City Council meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes 4-0. Next is approval of claims for payment. Let's start to my right with Monty for questions.
Nope.
Okay. Any questions, Larry? Jim, questions
No.
on payments? Payne, questions?
None, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no questions, I'd entertain a motion for approval of the October 14th claims for payment.
So moved.
Moved by Tim. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Payne. All in favor then of the claims for payment, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, that passes 4-0. Open business from the community. Anyone wish to address the council tonight? We'll move on then to Mayor's report. We wish for continued success to the West Sioux volleyball team as they start down the tournament trail the first part of next week. Also continued success for the West Sioux football team, who have 2 games left and giving us a lot of excitement this year. Our thanks to the police department. They've had a number of crimes that they've gotten solved over the last week, so we appreciate their work with that. Are there any council comments at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the football team for helping on the 5th, that Saturday. They came in and helped do some demolition, about 25 guys. It was very much appreciated. And the tuck pointing is done now that it's in the old city hall. And that was all either grant money or money that the Historical Society raised. It wasn't city funds, so it's a good deal for us. That's it.
Thanks, Jim. Anything else from council? Hearing none, we'll move on to staff reports. Mike?
Nothing new to report. Appreciate your compliment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pickner, anything from you?
No.
Okay. Tom?
I have a few things. We've lost power 3 times since the last council meeting, and there's been 3 dead squirrels by each fuse that was tripped, so they've been busy this time of year. The Sons of American Legion called last week and said they'd like to pay for a handicap accessible sidewalk in the Veterans Park, and they're proposing to go from the enclosed shelter straight south to the parking area with a 5-foot wide path, 5.5 inches thick. Citywide cleanup went really good this last time. We had 15 dumpsters, and our average is 20 to 22, so a little less stuff this time, and it was pretty well organized. We do have half of our winter gas purchase for the upcoming heating season. Our average price so far is $3.62 an MCF, and last year we averaged $4.36. So I'll get that for you at the next council meeting, what that would do to a 100 CCF bill for the average customer. Our energy efficiency plan, we have, just a reminder, we have rebates for lighting, heating and cooling, and for furnace tune-ups, and we have had quite a few people taking advantage of the furnace tune-up rebate. And please remember to recycle if you aren't. Our numbers are way down on recycling, so we could sure use be nice to keep those numbers up anyway. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Gary?
I just have one item in addition to what Tom already reported. Our meeting in November is scheduled for the 11th, which is Veterans Day, and the 25th, which is the day before Thanksgiving. I would suggest maybe having one meeting and having it on the 18th, if that works for you. it's really important that I know because the hospital does have some financial transactions that must occur before the end of the year in order to complete their the final grant procedures, so we don't have an IRS issue next year. So I know that they're working at it, and I know that Christine Kuhn, the attorney in Des Moines, is working on it as well. But she needs to know the dates of the meetings that we're going to have so that we can schedule them appropriately. So,
Do you need, excuse me, do you need a motion or just an agreement?
just if you guys just give me tell me it's okay, we'll just schedule that way. But
18th is fine for, as far as I'm concerned.
You just want one
I
then.
want to make sure.
And that'll give staff enough time to get things completed.
That'll work out well, yeah. And hopefully we'll have the hospital stuff on schedule so we get those completed in November, December. So that's to finalize the 6.5 million or something like that, I think is the balance left or something, somewhere in that range, 6 million. So,
Is that
Thank you.
agreeable with council, sounds like? So, okay, thank you. Any questions for staff before we move? Move on to other agenda items. A hospital update, please, by Jason Pullman.
Good evening. As Gary was talking about the interim financing, we need to wrap that up by the end of the year, and we've been working with Dorsey Whitney to get that done, and we should be able to punch in that window. So that's the last phase of the interim financing for the building project. As you can see, the 1936 building is pretty much down. It still has the footings and some stuff that needs to be removed. They're currently working on the power plant, and there's been a lot of activity. There's putting studs up underneath and also putting in sprinkler system and the new boilers and new electrical panels, and there's a lot of work going on in this inside, so you're not seeing a whole lot outside. Steel should show up the end of this week, first part of next week for the remainder of the project, and then we need to put a grade beam around and start putting up steel. So it should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. You should see a lot of activity actually happening for the building project. We did go out for rebid for a couple bid categories that we were still missing. One was glass and a few other ones, and all but one bid category came in, and so we're still waiting on flooring. Flooring has been kind of a challenge for us, and the biggest thing is we have all bids for the flooring except the resin or epoxy floor for the cafeteria and also the OR, and so we haven't been able to find a installer that is willing to bid on it, and so we either need to change the product or we need to rebid that category again. And then so it's been a challenge for us, but we're trying to work through that. Otherwise, everything's on schedule. We are for all standpoints, we are on budget, and so that's a good thing. And we haven't used any of our contingency yet, so that's a good thing also. The remainder of the building, once we remove that, that's probably where the biggest risk is for contingency in case we run into something there. And so we're hoping to not use any of our contingency. That's a good thing. So otherwise, everything's going as planned. Any questions?
Hearing none, thanks again for the update to us and the public.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. Item number 4, Coilcraft request for purchase of real estate in the industrial park. Jerry Clemmy, if you'd like to address us. And Coilcraft's been a long time business in town. We appreciate your business and your support to the community.
Thank you for allowing me to come before you, and I think you're going to put my information up on the screen. Has everybody had a chance to read the opening letter that I sent? If not, I can maybe highlight it. Or it's pretty self-explanatory. When we bought the former Staples building, I honestly thought that we would have more time, and I wanted to delay it as much as I could, only because, you had expenses when you had another enterprise out there, but, we needed space a lot sooner than I expected. One of the things that also caught me off guard was the amount of off-road, what I would call off-road traffic that we needed in order to move materials and equipment down there. And subsequently, the continuing, just moving back and forth of some of the things that we have to carry by our skid loader, forklift, things like that. And I am always worried about things like that being on a highway. And so my goal really centers around safety. Just as an aside, it might be because I'm maturing, and a couple of my employees use another word for that. And today when there was a loud boom from one of those squirrels, and Judy called me at work and said, "Did you hear that? Did the lights flicker?" Well, I must have blinked and been in a noisy area right at the moment because I missed it. Other employees told me they did indeed hear that boom. And my heart sank because I know of all the electrical work that's going on, and I thought somebody got hurt. And I guess I've just become more and more sensitive to the, any catastrophic injuries that can happen, and that's what's driving me on this. So it is my request that we try at least to get together on the purchase of some or all of that strip of land in the darker area that the city owns in that photo up there. And the yellow line approximates what we're doing now, and it isn't a long-term solution. It goes across a field, and then when it starts to straighten on the east end of that 1.23 acres, that's just dirt farm ground, so it's not conducive to any kind of travel in inclement weather. I think it's going to probably not work hardly at all in the wintertime. And so if we were to do something and get some agreement, I would try to do something more permanent across there, at least gravel, and get a good path across there. The straight line going ultimately on the Coilcraft property down there, we have gravelled that. We started with a base from the rock ballast that was on the roof. We put a new roof on it, so that was a large pile of rock. We put that in there, and then subsequently some more gravel on top of it. And so I don't know where to start. I know there's maybe more than one process for the sale of property, but if you're interested in it, I'd just like to invite you to come up with a method and perhaps a price or a way to determine the price. And then I don't claim the authority on my own to decide instantly. I'll have to work that out with the Home Office as well. But that's what I've got. Either or one or both of them. The east one is the more critical for this purpose if it would work out. And just to keep it together, we would certainly be interested in the whole strip. Where that yellow line comes in, I mentioned in the letter that nips across the corner, which I think is probably still city right of way, but yet it fronts the property owned by the hotel, and they have expressed that they would hope that we could come up with a different solution. And I assured them that I was going to at least try. So that's where I'm at. Do you have any questions for me?
That east property, do you need the whole thing or just that west half of that east property? That
For this purpose, where it comes up from the bottom of the photo, we would probably prefer to go just about probably straight up from there.
straight to the intersection.
Straight up to where the bottom of that arrowhead is approximately, and then angle across or something like that, because there's a hill there, and for things like a forklift, it's better to keep it kind of level. They don't climb very well.
You wouldn't mind if we kept the 1.1 acres, just because that's got...
I'm not offended, it's your property.
Well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
you don't really, are you saying you want that too, or? Are you
We would entertain all of it, I think, if there was some interest and if we could get together on price. But the critical part that I'm looking for, that I really hope that we can work out, is probably the east half of that 1.2 acres.
Because we put a lot of money in the infrastructure and stuff. It'd be
I
nice
know.
to keep one lot on the highway
Right.
for somebody if they ever needed it or anything.
And we, like, probably any company, hopes that they can control their surroundings. And one of the things that we and others have learned, that depending on the crop that goes in there, it's not always conducive to a good, being neighborly because of corn trash or whatever it might be. So, if we were to have it all, that would be our first concern for that, is controlling what goes on it.
Where do the restrooms sit for the
Pardon me?
softball complex?
Restrooms? They're.
It's right on that edge of that, isn't it?
They're to the right. That's kind of a playground area, I think. Yeah, it's further.
Playground area?
There's some
Further,
swings and that,
East,
some old,
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty well open yet
Further
to
east.
the east of that.
there's a pretty big buffer between that lot line and the restrooms.
I don't know if there's any thought about putting street over to the recreation area from that or not. Somebody mentioned that offhand. They thought that'd be a good idea. I haven't thought that through, but, we certainly want to cooperate with that as well.
Got a map of that down here, I think, somewhere maybe.
And as I ended my letter, my compliments always to the city on the relationship we've had through the years. In my tenure out there, I have nothing but compliments for the service we've got and the willingness to react whenever there's a problem that we have.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
There's a picture of the two ball fields and as it relates to the property that Jerry's talking about.
So it leaves plenty of parking and everything for there. And
Jim, did you want to make any comments on the easement, the conversation we had on easements and how difficult it is to maybe prepare or
I think the problem we had, we were going to have to go in and survey up the easement, and then it's cutting across that lot. The value of it would be very difficult to determine. How do we value that compared to the price of the lot? And once you have that easement across it, then the lot's much less marketable. So I think we felt that it would be better to, just to sell them what they needed and be done with it. As far as determining a price, Gary set out the three alternatives. I did take a look at what the assessor did on the ground on the Baumgars property and how, he ultimately valued that. That's a little different piece. I think he had that valued at about 33 cents a square foot.
This or the Baumgars?
The Baumgars.
Okay.
But yeah, it's in the area.
would we have to move that playground or anything?
probably not.
No.
I mean, if he bought the whole lot, we'd want to get it off his property, obviously. So
Yeah, and most of that stuff needs to come out anyway.
it's pretty bad, yeah.
There was a lot of homemade stuff.
Larry, Monty, any thoughts?
Well, I don't care if they take the damn stuff. Just set me a price. I'd be interested in selling them the east lot.
Sounds good.
Do you want to,
1.2 acres?
Mr. Mayor, when you're talking about that playground equipment, that's on a separate lot, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, you're 1.23 just bare, correct?
Yep.
Right. Okay.
We don't have any plans for any street work out there, right? I mean, that's, so it'd be all up to the new owner or whatever to do whatever he wanted for.
much?
Okay.
As far as establishing a price, if you're willing to sell it, do you want to go, I mean, do you have a thought in mind as far as the,
Have we ever discussed the prices for these lots? Have we ever said like 10,000 a lot or something, or?
not
has it
really.
been
Uh,
Nothing.
I mean, there's always conversations, but I'm not sure we've ever committed to
I don't know
anything.
that anything's been set.
I'm not aware that we've ever set a price.
So you mentioned the evaluate.
We could get, probably Marlon Jansen to do a market study, but, he's not gonna find any arm's length sales of those kind of lots in Hawarden. He's gonna have to go look at, Rock Valley, Sioux Center, Lamar's, so. I have a feeling he'll come back with probably a lot higher price. We could talk to the assessor too about how he came up with what he put on for Baumgars.
That was what, 33 cents a square foot?
I think so. Don't hold me to that, but I just looked at the tax thing. I didn't bring it with me, but I'm pretty sure it was 33 cents, which came out to about 13,000 an acre.
Got that down here anywhere.
Does the council want to proceed? You want to
Sell it?
proceed with approaching
Yeah.
that sale at that price, or?
Sounds good to me.
So are you selling just the east lot then? Is that what?
Yes.
So 1.2 acres.
Yeah, and if,
Here's the assessor's page on that particular lot, and it shows his value on it is 18,450. So I believe that's the right lot, 1.23 acres.
Oh,
I think that's the one Jerry provided me, I think. Well,
They're both on there. The top one is the 1.23.
yeah, so you're looking, their value on it is, as the assessor valued it, is 18,450, but
It's probably what we should use in the absence of getting somebody to come up with something different.
okay. Sounds good.
Is there a motion to direct the staff toward the sale of the 1.3 acres at the cost of $18,450?
so moved.
Kane?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a second?
Sure.
Tim? Further questions or clarifications?
What are we going to do with the 1.1?
Well, that's got highway frontage. That's the only thing left in our development out there. I'm not saying if they needed it at some point and nobody's ever come in, but it seems like for market.
Nobody has in the past 20 years, so.
Yeah, but you can hope. If we don't have anything, then we can't sell it, right?
If we're going to lop off the east 1.23, can we at least promise, Jerry, that we won't be planting that 1 acre?
Sure.
I think we should seed it into either alfalfa or some type of grass. That'd be nice, I think.
We've got it.
We don't have that
leased,
lease.
right? No,
It's,
that's okay.
that particular 1 acre is not in the lease, so we should be good there.
We've got an out anyway in our lease, I think, so.
Yeah.
Jerry, does someone put up that hayfield south of your main building?
Red line.
Maybe he could just work that, both lots, if he'd be interested.
I suppose there's a limit to how many years they can do alfalfa, but
Yeah.
that works quite well for us.
We can get it seeded for you. For us, I guess, if we keep it, but.
There's been a motion and a second to have staff proceed with the 1.3 acres, which is the east side on that, on the diagram, at a cost of $18,450. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Agenda item number 5, proposed sale of a lot in the industrial park to the Hawarden Chamber and Economic Development, Inc., which is approximately 1 acre. This again is for the proposed sale of the spec building. And Alan will let you address the council for that, please.
Representing the Chamber Economic Development Committee, we have received a purchase offer for the spec building. That offer does include the property just to the south, the open lot just to the south of the current spec building. At this point, the offer would like that land for access to the building from the county road on the south side for this particular business. The offer amount, unfortunately, the offer amount at this point does not cover both the remaining balance on the building and the potential land cost of the extra property. And so at this point, the committee is asking for the city to consider possibly transferring the deed of that property to the Economic Development Committee by selling the land to us at a fair market price and then granting back that same amount as a development grant to help this potential sale.
Gary, that lot's about approximately about an acre also. is
Slightly,
it?
yeah, about the same size as the one we were just talking about.
And there's been some, can you kind of give us an overview of how this will help this whole process and what the city will gain from that?
I can try. It's kind of a convoluted
Process.
process, but you know, ultimately, just kind of give you a little background. The city received a USDA grant for $300,000, and in addition to that, provided some infrastructure and some other funding. Built a spec building. I guess stepping back, they received the grant, but in doing so, they had to find a third-party nonprofit to basically funnel the money through and for this project to happen. So they worked with the Economic Development Group to be that third-party entity. And now as you sell the building, the money, it will pay there was an $89,925, I believe, in infrastructure costs. It would pay that $89,000 in full. Also will pay the $300,000. You will get back the $300,000. Counting the payments that have already been made, you will get back the total $300,000 of grant money, which will go into the balance. Will then go into a city revolving loan fund account, which will be an asset of the city's. It's going to be a restricted asset that can only be used for revolving loan fund money, but it still will be $300,000 that the city never had their hands on, and it's outside money coming in. It's not money that was generated from within. So it does provide the city with a $300,000 revolving loan fund in a restricted account. And also pays off $89,925, I believe, if I remember the amount right. The city did also contribute $80,000 to that project, I think, initially, right, Tom?
Yes.
If I remember correctly. So, but they will get back, in essence, the city will get back $389,925 or something like that from the sale of the building. So. It just has to pass through the development corporation to make that happen. So,
Much like Coilcraft, the access for this building would be much better for this person to the south to get right back on the highway.
yeah, I can comment that in the conversations I've had with the individual, they plan on putting 5 overhead doors on the south side of the building, have access out to 460th Street, which is now paved, and have a southern exposure, and that's why it's so important for them to have this lot as well. And the lot is going to require quite a bit of fill. It's pretty low, but that's going to be their expense. So.
Comments from council?
So first we have to give or do this lot exchange or acreage or whatever, sell that to them, and then they,
Because of contingent, the offer is contingent on this land being a part of the sale, so.
so what do we have to do for that? Just make a motion to sell it, or is
Well,
that something coming up for next meeting?
Jim,
Yeah, what we would have to do is set it up and have on the agenda making an economic development grant.
Okay.
And then we would have to have the proposed sale. And you guys have to make some findings. We can't give the real estate away, but if you're able to make the findings, we can make a grant that they can then use to purchase it. I would put that together and we would come back. Maybe in the meantime, we would get something more solid between the, with a contingency, we'd get something signed between the potential buyer, contingent upon them acquiring the lot, so we had everything together.
we have that already.
You have that already, okay, I wasn't aware of it.
We've got a signed offer, so.
So, and at that point, we would come back and we'd have to advertise like we normally do when we're selling a lot, and then you come back for final approval. But the first meeting, you would approve the grant and the proposed sale, and then when we came back, you would make final approval of the sale.
Okay.
So I guess all we'd be looking for today is that you want me to proceed that, or want to proceed that way.
I'd make a motion we move forward with this.
It's been a motion by Larry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tim. Further discussions? Clarifications?
This is certainly nothing like the previous item. I mean, Jerry Clemming, for all of his, came in the door and said, this is what I want, this is why I want it. We set a price in open session, and we have, dealt with it publicly. This back door, doors closed in the dark crap, I won't go for it. Should he have the lot? I don't care. Should we do it this way? No, I won't vote for this. On the basis of the lot, on the basis of the principle of HIDCO, a bunch of unelected, unknown individuals continually, and in my term, irresponsibly, spending city money. So, no, I won't support it. Just so you know. Like anybody had any doubt anyway, but.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
Okay, that passes 3-1. Direct staff to go that direction. Agenda item number 6, discussion on pricing for potential sale of city-owned lots for commercial storage facilities.
I just had an individual that has approached me about buying some property. Again, the two parcels that he's voiced interest in is the parcel by the ball fields, of which we've talked previously. If you remember, Mr. Van Wy was looking at some property for some storage facilities. And this gentleman has an interest in that same parcel. That would, as you see, the motel owns the parcel directly east of the motel. Then the next big void is the area that we're talking about. It would be north of the restrooms. The other parcel that he's interested in is the old Sioux Motel property, and this still has the motel on it. But he would have an interest in that property as well. And again, these two properties are parcels. I'm quite sure that either or both of them he would be interested in storage facilities. Storage units is what he's looking at, I think. So I told him that I would bring it before the council to see if he had any interest in selling, and if so, how much. Both properties are zoned appropriately for that type of use. But that doesn't, I don't think that, well, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that eliminates the I mean, the city owns the ground, so they can pretty much stipulate whatever they want as far as use, so.
City doesn't have to sell, and they can sell with restrictions.
So just because it meets the current zoning requirements doesn't mean that you have to sell it and let them use it for that, so that's really your choice. But anyway, I told them I would bring it to you, and if you have any desire to sell, and if you have a desire for that type of use in those locations, you'd like to know, and like to know how much.
Did I see something about a strip mall, or was it all storage?
Well, he's looking at something like that, but I don't think either of these properties, there's a couple other,
Okay.
properties that he's looking at, but I don't think either one of these would be appropriate for the type of retail, Subway or something like that that he's considering, so.
Deal first with the Leo, the property down near the ballparks.
Yeah, you want to talk about that one first and
Thoughts on that?
see what everybody thinks? And
Well, we've already got storage down there, right? I mean,
there's some to the north.
Yeah.
Adam Waterman owns quite a few storage units a little further north, about a block north of there. But
so that would fit in then with the use that we've got existing and stuff, that nice spot for it. Yeah.
And how large is that parcel? Do you know?
it's not it's not parceled off because but I think it's around, if I remember correctly, it's around 250 by 300 feet, which would be about 3 acres probably. Maybe not quite, 2.5 to 3 acres, something like that.
But then that includes the restroom area.
We would
All that
exclude
stuff, I
that.
think.
It would be, we would have to create a parcel out there with the restroom areas would be, continue to be part of the ball field. If you look, all those, that's all just one big parcel right now of city-owned land. There's really no lot line, so to speak. So we'd have to create a parcel there to sell, so. And whether you want to maintain that as a recreational area and leave it, for future, I don't know what the plan is or if anybody has one, but.
Well, the problem is, you go down there for middle school ball, and everything's full down there for parking.
So, yeah.
And that's 2-3 days a week, most of the summer.
Yeah.
Other thoughts for that parcel?
I'll sell it. That's whatever you think we have to keep for recreation, but
How about these lots then? Do they park over there too, or what?
It's,
Or do they just park
What
here because it's
what I've
right off
noticed
the road?
is that north property is always full, and then it overflows into those properties in between the ball fields and the derby track.
And where's the derby track on this?
It's gonna be just to the right of those two.
The Hawarden
lots.
properties?
Yep. You can kind of see the bleachers right on the edge of that picture.
Okay, yeah. So you're saying we need that for parking? Where they want to build? Or-
We need to give it thought, because the buses usually sit right along the east side of that road. And then, because you got boys and girls playing at the same time out there on both fields. It's something we gotta give it thought to anyway. Because 7th and 8th grade play out there while the high school's up at the school, obviously.
what's the width of that lot?
For me, Doc.
What's the north, or east-west width of that lot?
East-west, I think it's about 250, if I remember correctly. I measured it, but I didn't write that down. I'm sorry, but I think it's around 250 feet, so.
The whole thing?
I think he would take as much as we were willing to sell if the price were right. You know,
We have a history of that.
it's always price is a factor. But I think he would take whatever he'd be interested in the whole thing. But I'm not sure how much less he would take of it. I can't answer that for you. But
I was already parking on both sides of that road. I'll still sell it.
Is it kind of a one or the other thing, or is it all of it if we're willing to sell all of it?
at this point, he just wanted me to find out what the price would be if the city was willing to sell either or both of those lots. So I don't, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. But I would guess it's, he would probably, if you're willing to sell them both, he'd probably look at both of them and
I guess
but
all we can do is come up with a price on that and come up with a price for the Sioux Motel lots and see where it falls from there.
yeah, if you're willing to sell them, that's I told him I had no idea. We've had the discussions, and I just didn't know whether he wanted to sell, and if so, how much.
That Wesson property,
So
right?
that's-
Is that it?
Well, we had talked about
Doesn't run.
a couple of firemen about moving Callio Park, which is behind the
This is
fire
what he
hall,
wants. That's what he wants, okay, okay.
the Callio Village
All
area.
right, I gotcha, gotcha,
Kind
gotcha.
of nice to
So the
leave that
question is,
property
can
across
we
the
lop
street
off a hunk
for
of this and
open,
make parking?
that
Or we
park,
lop off a hunk of this and save this for
parkland for
parking?
the kids to play and stuff.
Either one.
Okay,
I don't think storage buildings would look very good right on that.
But you have
'Cause it's
one,
kinda
you have a
resi-
storage building right when you come to town, that fire station.
Yeah, but I'm just
That's,
saying that's beside
you know.
the point. I don't know if we want to have this is almost residential area now, or we got rid of I don't know.
So the question is, are we willing to sell the lot next to Callio Village?
That's what I'm saying. If we move the Callio Park from behind the fire hall so the firemen can have it, it would be nice to have that for the park.
So you're saying no, don't sell it?
That part, yeah. That's what I'm saying. I would
So am
like
I. So there's not votes here to sell the Callio Village chunk.
Okay.
He can have the other chunk if he wants it for the same kind of per square foot price we just set with, I mean, it's the same place, for God's sakes.
Yep.
We have a number in mind.
Sounds good.
How much of the other parcel would you want to sell? Yeah, all, I mean, pretty close to where the buildings, two little buildings are there, or do you?
You said they're junk buildings, they're ready to be torn
Well,
down. and
no,
put a
there's a shelter and there's a restroom facility, and they're both okay.
They're both in good shape.
I thought you said
Yeah, they're
they were.
both okay. The playground equipment.
Playground equipment
to
is
the
not in very good
West
shape.
is pretty bleak, but
Okay. Well, then we don't want to sell the buildings if we're
No.
using them. Especially restrooms. I mean, that's kind of important.
And I'm willing to improve the parking, but we can do that to the east if we have to.
But then you won't have access from the road, right?
I'm talking about right here. Here.
Okay.
Make that parking lot come this way. It's not gonna be a further walk than this is.
Yep.
yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
If he's willing to buy it, take it off my hands and turn it into taxable property, I'm willing to let him.
Plus, we don't have to maintain it.
Right.
On this, if I can get up, if you don't mind, on this edge, would you want to go, what do you want to, maybe keep that property line in line with that particular one and something like that, you think, or? Because we're going to have to come up with a south property boundary there somewhere for that lot. Would that be easier, Jim, as far as from a legal description, or does it really matter?
I don't think it's gonna make a lot of difference. I mean, it's just knowing where it's at. I mean, we could sell him the north, so many feet, and we probably can tell by that property line that runs down next alongside the road by the motel. We can probably get a measurement off that.
There's a fence there.
I mean, we would be able to avoid a survey, other than nobody would know when they went out there exactly where the lot line was, which is typical Hawarden, so we probably should have a survey. Before he builds
Usually
over.
build on everyone else's property. But
We could probably utilize some parking on the west side of the shelter and the bathrooms. If we had a little loop, we could drive around there too, and that would
Or throw some gravel
give
out
us some
there.
parking that we don't have now. That would add a few spaces.
So I take the acreage size, and the price that we looked at for Jerry and Colecraft, when you utilize that same per square foot basis, we'd be okay?
2 acres for $18,450. This is 2 acres, it's gonna be a little more than that.
Just figure out what the square footage price is and use that, right?
Sounds like a plan.
Everybody comfortable with that at this point?
We just had discussion, so we don't need any motion. You'll just pursue that as staff? Or do you want a motion?
You all can put your heads together and decide exactly how much of that lot you want to sell. I don't care.
Okay,
But the majority of it, I'm willing to put back on the tax rules.
okay.
Okay, thanks for everybody's discussion on that. Move to agenda item number 7, DGR Engineering Proposal for Street Lighting on 10th Street, Highway 10.
Do we have this project budgeted?
Yeah, yes, we do, and we actually borrowed the money when we did the borrowings for the electric project. That was included, the street lighting for this project was included in that project. We just didn't know, we had to guesstimate what it was going to be because it hasn't been engineered yet. So we got some information from the lighting companies that actually sold the lighting and stuff to give us an idea of what we were going to need, but at this point, because we need state permitting and we need all the process, there's so many options in lighting anymore, we really need to have someone like a DGR involved if we're going to do it. And we had streetlights, they keep falling down, they're just rusted, and we had one get hit the other day again and had it taken down.
A week ago. It's on 10th and L.
So what was the best guess?
I think we had about 250, if I remember right, with all the dirt work and the installation and the cost of poles and the cost of the anchors, and we have to put breakaway poles in. And I think there were 33 lights, I believe, if I remember right, is what they estimated at the lighting department. Keep in mind they're selling lights, so they're going to, you don't know how accurate. I mean.
It has to meet state standards, though, too, for lighting, so.
But what I would like to do is bring back some pole options for you guys to look at and decide what you want to go with there. Whether you want something more fancy, whether you want just a spun aluminum pole, you want anything, does it matter?
Yeah, it does. I think
good lighting.
we want something that kind of shows off the town. I mean, it's a main street. I think if we could get something, there's a lot of attractive kind of seen in several cities where they have the
And we started this,
old-time look, but not, except it works instead of.
if you see the agreement dated the 10th of April of 2013, that's when we really started this discussions, and so it's been a couple of years as we were going through the electric project as well. But those poles are bad.
Make any money on the tops? That's kind of that retro look?
Yeah, the old retro look. We probably sell the Chinese tops somewhere, but
I suppose there's no chance that the state of Iowa will ever redo Highway 10 through town?
it's not on the 5-year plan.
Will the lights be in the way then?
They'll have to approve, they have to provide a permit for this whole project. They will have to permit the lights, so they will take that into consideration in their permitting process. So they have to review, that's why you have to have a site plan, you have to have a design, you have to submit it to the DOT. They will have to review it, and they'll have to approve it before you ever do any installation, which takes some months to get done. So And that's the critical reason for the use of the DGR. If it was on a state highway, and we could have one of the lighting companies just design the lights, and we could get them put in. That wouldn't be a need for it. But because we have to go through this permitting process and working with the state, not only to make sure that we meet their expectations and their criteria and create the permitting process appropriately, but we also have to follow their standards when we do the installation as far as traffic control and seating, and because everything we do is in the state right of way. So.
Will that all be off the highway though? It'll all, will we have to do new sidewalks then on one side?
We won't have to, I don't think, move any sidewalks that I'm aware of, but we'll have to, but again, all the work is still in state right of way, so they control what we do. They tell us what we can and can't do there, so.
Tonight you'd like a motion to direct staff to continue the DGR conversation with the lighting project?
Yes, and keep in mind as DGR does this work, if they get to a point and they come back and the price is extremely high, then you can choose not to do it. It's just, at this point, we don't know. We're just, it's a shot in the dark. I mean, we were given an estimate, and we think we have it covered, but I'm not going to guarantee that, so.
I would like to know how much of this type of work DGR has done before.
I'm sorry, what was that, Doc? How much?
I would like to know how much, highway lighting, how much conversation with the state of Iowa DGR has had in the past.
They've done a lot of those projects.
Prove it.
Yeah. They gave us some towns that they did, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't know if you can, Tom.
They've done almost every town in northwest Iowa. They do the engineering for almost all of them.
These guys do nearly, they do nearly every electric project in every community up here, so. And they're phenomenal, so. If I wouldn't recommend any other electric engineer in this area besides DGR, to be honest with you. They're the best.
So you want a motion to proceed with DGR then? Find out their price?
Yeah, if you want to, I guess that's.
Well, we
entirely up to you
definitely need it, right?
Yeah.
So we want to then. So
I would suggest that, but that's.
Been a motion by Tim to direct staff to continue with DGR engineering project for street lighting on Highway 10. Is there a second?
Are we hiring them pursuant to the contract we've seen? Is that what we're doing? Are we allocating those funds?
Yeah, they've got a schedule of services, and what this.
I understand that. They sent us a contract. It's what we're doing tonight by this motion, approving this contract?
This contract, yes, that's correct.
And I think that's the way the motion should read.
Okay, so moved.
If they're gonna change the dates on the contract.
Pardon me?
If they're gonna change the dates on there.
Well, yeah, they're going to have to, but
They're
it's just
all
going to be just relative
2014 and.
Yeah, well, you have to understand, we started this process in 2013, and these are going to have to be, they'll just be relative to today's dates. So,
That'll probably be higher.
pardon me?
And the price will probably be higher if it's.
It may be.
Here. Might be down, but I doubt it, right?
I'm not signing a blank contract here. That's my point.
Exactly. And you're not, you got the pricing in there.
All right, as long as we're going by that pricing, then I second the motion.
The pricing is accurate. The pricing is what it is. It's just that the dates need to change to correlate with today's dates is all. So, we're instead of having an authorization date of August 2013, it's going to be October of 2015, and everything else will kick up 2.5 years, or 2 years and 2 months. So.
Been a motion by Tim, a second by Monty to get into a contractual agreement with DGR for the Highway 10 street lighting project. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Those opposed? That passes 4-0. Agenda item number 8 is a consent agenda, request from Casey's General Store for the renewal of a Class C beer, Class LE liquor, Class B wine, Class B native wine permit for off-premise sales with Sunday sales. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Tim, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Payne. All in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Next, the Hawarden City Council would like to go into closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 388.9 to discuss marketing and pricing strategies and proprietary information, where the competitive position would be harmed by public disclosures not required of competitors. No public purpose is served by disclosure. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Moved by Larry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Payne. Roll call vote, please, to go into closed session.
Kurth?
Aye.
Harvey? Yep. Allen?
Aye.
Bowder?
Aye.
On a 4-0 roll call vote, Hawarden City Council will be now going into closed session.